Today we're going to be looking at a brand new section of our pool house drawing and design project. So this is the second drawing requirement that the clients are looking for, which is roof plans. So here we are in the roof plans module in the hub. There is a description here. You can take a look at this in the hub and read it. I'm going to be discussing a lot of the things that are mentioned in this descriptor in this video. So I'm going to skip over that here, go down to roof types, and first we're going to take a look at the different types of roofs that are typically seen in architectural drawing and design. Now, some of these are a bit funky. The most common ones that you're going to see are a hip and valley roof, which is what we're going to focus on today. And this is a more modern type of roof style. It looks really nice as well. Also, common roofs are gable roofs, open or box like you see here, and also gazebo roofs. And typically, roof styles also can be mixed and matched, right? We could mix and match gable style with hip and valley and even a hexagonal gazebo roof if we wanted to. So it's not uncommon to do things like that. Also add dormers as well. Some roofs have this. So take a look at this document as well. And then next, we're going to be looking at hip with a covered porch. So this is an example of a roof plan. Now this dashed line here, you know it as a hidden line. In an architectural drawing, this represents the footprint of the floor plan of the home. So the roof is seen over top. It has an overhang. This document mentions that the overhang is 2 feet all around. And this also has a covered porch, which is 8 feet by 24 feet. And as you can see here on top, your roof plane extends outward to cover that porch, right? Because this porch is not actually part of the floor plan. So this is typically something you could include on your pool house as well if you wanted to do this. And sometimes adding covered porches helps to simplify roofs that could be otherwise too complicated to solve or really hard or impossible to solve based on the floor plan layout. We have one last example we're going to look at, which is, actually, I'm sorry, we're going to take a look at this one. So here's an example of a hip and valley roof. This one's a little more complicated. Original house plan with a hip roof sketched in. What do all these lines and angles mean? Well, we're going to be talking about that and how to solve for this. This example has some labeling, right? So this is a little simpler than the one we've just seen, but this example is almost like an opposite effect of the second example I showed you with the covered porch, because they have the hidden line showing the overhang, and they have a solid line showing the footprint of the floor plan, and they have all the roof lines dashed, which is typically not how you do it. But I really like this example because it's really clear. So all the lines that are perfectly horizontal and vertical are referred to as ridge lines. The lines on an angle of 45 degrees are hip lines. And where a hip line meets a ridge line, it is connected with a valley line. So this is the terminology, right? We also have our eaves on the outside and our overhang. So we only really have 3 angles we have to worry about. We have to worry about 0, 90 degrees, or 45 degrees. So it's pretty simple. It looks complicated, but it really isn't. So let's go back. And there's an exercise here, TDJ roof plan exercise. So this is an AutoCAD file. I'm going to download it, and I'm going to complete it. Open. I encourage you to do this as well. This is good practice prior to completing your roof plan for your design. All right, so what do we have here? Instructions. This is the first one. It says, given the following floor plans, complete the elevations, use a 12-12 pitch. Use a hip roof on all sides. All right, so this is typically going to be the steepest roof slope you're going to have. If this line here represents 12 inches, and so does this one, that angle must be 45 degrees. All right, so we're using this type of pitch. Now, you don't normally have to use this type of pitch, but we're going to use this for all our examples here, and then there'll be some later lessons going down the line which will discuss different roof pitches used for elevations when we talk about elevation views. Okay, so we are going to go and turn the polar on, right click, make sure we're set to 45 degrees here, and I'm going to start with a line, and I have to start, now this one's very, very simple. This is going to be a simple hip roof, because it says use a hip roof on all sides. You know what a hip roof is because we just looked at an example. So we're going to start at this end point. I'm going to draw a line on my polar 45 degrees, and I'm going to stop it somewhere. Nowhere specific. I just needed to get it started. I'm going to right click, left click, repeat line. I'm going to go from this end point and come up on 45 degrees, and I'm going to stop when I hit the perpendicular snap. Do the same thing again on this side. That's 135 degrees, the same as 45 degrees. And I'm going to come up to the perpendicular snap here on 135 degrees. Okay, so what do I have left to do? I'm going to be trimming these lines, and then we're going to be drawing a line from endpoint to endpoint, and this is my completed hip roof, right? So we've got 4 sides that hip in and meet one single horizontal ridge line here. So I've used 0 degrees, 45 degrees, or 135 degrees, depending on how I'm drawing, but that is how that looks. So this is a simplified exercise. So normally we're going to be putting a little more work into our own design drawings, but to show this on the elevations, which is going to be something we're going to talk about next week, we're going to just take this and copy it to here. It would look the same on the rear, so I'll just snap it to there as well. And then this one here, copy it out, and we will rotate it. And then move it, we'll copy it. We'll go from here to here. Erase. And that is that one completely solved. Very basic. So let's move on to the second of 4 examples. So this one is just a little bit harder. Let's see how we do. Alright, so polar on again. I'm already set to 45 degrees. I'm going to grab the line command and draw a line on 45 this way, just like I did before. You want to try to begin at the widest area. which is what I'm doing. Okay, so here we are. Another line. I'm not drawing them to specific lengths, but they don't quite meet. But that's okay because I'm just getting started. Line command again. Snap to endpoint. Going to come up at 45 degrees here. And I also have to come up on 45 degrees here. Okay. So, this, we're also going to draw a line from this endpoint because this example has a valley, which the previous one didn't have. Alright. And we're also going to have a line coming up. I'll just snap that one right to here. Okay. So the first thing we have to do is trim this line back to this, where these two hip lines meet one another, cross one another. So trim this line away. Now, we have to draw a line that is vertical coming up from this tip. And it has to continue on and stop at this valley line. We're going to trim that away. So we have our hip, we have this slope of our hip roof as well, and we have our valley here. So now, this line can't continue straight beyond this valley line. And it can't turn 45 degrees and keep going on the same angle as the valley. It has to go the opposite way on 45 degrees. And we have to go up to this intersection here and click. And then this line here trims, this hip line trims back to this line. We're also going to be trimming the access hip line here. And the last thing we have to do is make a ridge line from here to here. And there we have it. So that, again, this looks very much like the previous example that we did here, except this one includes a bump out or a covered porch, which forces you to include the valley, right? So this is a slope, this is a slope, so is this. This is the slope. That's a sloping valley, and there's a slope on this face. So that is how the roof would look. So let's put all of the elevations in place. So this is the front elevation. So first I'm going to take this. I'm going to copy it to here. Now we're going to take this. We're going to copy it here. Now let's do the left side elevation. And move it to here. We also have the right side elevation, so that is this. And we have our valley here. So I'm only taking the roof projection that corresponds to that particular elevation view, as you can see. So it looks different at every elevation. Lastly, we've got this hip on the rear elevation. And there we go. Everything lines up exactly as it should. Perfect. Okay. These things keep getting more complicated as we go. Okay. So again, this is the third example. We're using hip roofs on all these examples. Oof, how are we going to do this one? Let's give it a try. So, I'm going to start here today, 45 degrees. You know that we're going to have to trim or grip this back to here. That's something that we've just discussed. Okay. We have to make a vertical ridge line. Must go up. We also have to complete a valley. And we've got to trim or grip this down as well. We also have to draw a 45-degree line from every single corner. So we have to come up 45 degrees opposite this valley line. It comes up to this intersection. And then we're going to trim this. Okay. So I know, because this is symmetrical, I should be able to just mirror this onto this side. It's going to look the same on that side, so why am I going to bother to redraw everything again? So let's use the mirror tool. I need my midpoint snap. Object snap settings. Midpoint. There we go. There's the preview. Erase the source. No. Enter. Okay. So, let's continue on. We're going to have to go 45 degrees from this bump out. Have a ridge. Degrees. This line's got to come back to here. Lastly, create the ridge. And that is what that roof plan would look like. A little more going on. We have our typical hip slopes, as you've seen before. There are valleys, except this hip basically rests perfectly against this slope here, right? And then this is the ridge line that separates this side from this side, and you have your overhangs here. Whoops. I meant to copy that. Same here. That's what it looks like from the front. Okay, left side elevation. I'm doing this without ortho mode. I'm just using polar angles, 45, 90 degrees, to kind of get everything lined up. All right, so my left elevation is here. I also have to include this valley. There we go. And again, this is just the opposite effect. So to save some time, I'm going to, again, mirror this, 490 degrees, erase the source, yes, and then move it to here. This has got to go in the middle. And lastly, we're going to have our hip slope. All of these should all line up. If they don't line up, something bad has happened. And it looks like everything is working out like it should. Okay, so here's our final example. Oof. Okay, more bump outs. Well, let's start with what we know. We know we have to make a hip here. We know that, whoops, that's not very good. Let's fix that. Let's just make sure. 45 degrees. Yeah. 45 degrees. Okay, so that's proper. We've got our ridge here. in our valley. This line, drip back to the valley, create another line here, and then okay, so far so good. Let's go here, do the same thing. Got to connect the ridge, and we also have to okay. Now, don't get tricked here, because some people, okay, so that is the completed roof plan for that example. Some people, because they can do this, they want to draw a line from here, and that's 45 degrees to this endpoint, but that is not correct. It does not make sense to have this line here, because again, this hip roof, this little dormer hip roof that rests against the slope, rests here. It doesn't need to connect to this valley or to this slope. So this line here needs to be erased to be correct. All right, so that is how that should look. Now, I am not going to place the elevations on this example. That is something that I would like you to do. So I'd like you to try this assignment, and your last step will be to complete the left, front, right, and rear elevations as I showed you before in the previous examples. And that is it for now. And watch for the next video coming up, which will be how to complete some roof plan examples on the actual pool house. Take care for now, and we'll connect again later.